I have the most greediest in-laws, and my wife Lydia, she's going to leave me and it's all their fault. They're trying to convince her to go after some other dude because apparently I don't make enough money. Well, you know what? Here's a secret I didn't tell anybody.
You know those moments when you're standing in a room full of people and still feel like the odd one out? Yeah, I've been having a lot of those lately. Maybe it's weird and such a weird job situation. Or maybe it's the change in the dynamics at home. But something's been off. But I wouldn't even be here if it was just about feeling out of place. I could have handled that on my own, but it's not just about that. Because things lately have been totally out of control, and it's all because of my in-laws John and Beth. So let me just start by giving you guys a little context so you can understand the mess that I call my life. My name's Sam, and a few months ago I had a really good life. I basically had it all, a caring wife, a well-paying job, and some much-needed distance from my weird in-laws. But lately that's all gone to hell, and I don't even know what to do about it. Well, it started with my amazing job and how I sadly lost it. The company I worked at incurred a number of losses continuously, due to which they fell short of funds to even pay us our salary. So eventually they had to lay us off, and I guess you get how difficult it gets when the sole breadwinner of the house loses his job and you don't seem to have any other means to pay for the expenses. Well, this is what happened in our case. I was the sole earner as my wife, Lydia, was a stay-at-home wife, since I was earning pretty well at the time and she didn't have to worry so much about the income. She also did not have many qualifications to get a good office job, so naturally I took the whole financial responsibility on myself. And it was all going pretty well until I lost my job. That was a really dark period for us. We had to rely solely on our savings to meet the household expenses, while I was applying frantically to get another good job. But the market was bad, and after a month or so of trying to get a similar job to the one I had, I realized I wasn't going to get one, and we were just draining our savings out, so I started applying randomly, trying to get any job just to support my family. Well, I finally got a job as a cashier in a hotel chain. It was paying a lot less than my previous job, and I was basically downgrading since I deserved a pretty higher rank according to my qualifications. But I still took it, thinking it was something, and at least I would be able to take care of the basic necessities, if not afford the luxuries that we were used to. But that didn't mean I was still not trying to get a better job. I was applying on the side all this while, and I also took a few freelancing gigs just to get the extra money, to be honest. And though it was not much, we were scraping by, and I was still satisfied that I was able to take care of myself and my wife. I was also hopeful that I would soon get a better job. So it was alright for me and even Lydia, but can you guess who it was not okay for? Yeah, my in-laws. From the moment the news of me losing my job reached them, they have been after me nonstop. I didn't have a good relationship with my in-laws before this as well, since they're pretty money-minded, and they kept on asking me how much money I earn, how I use my money, how I could make the most out of it. So you can guess why I would, have wanted to keep these guys at bay. And this is what I've been doing all this time, and even they didn't really bother me much. The fact that they lived in another town helped as well, but as soon as I lost my job and Lydia, who talked to her parents daily, told them about it, they started blowing up my phone with calls, messages about what I was planning to do next and how I was going to get the money to take care of their daughter. So what started, as some misplaced concern turned into torture. Very soon, as my in-laws would almost torment me daily with the questions and everything. I mean, just imagine my mental state. I was already stressed about my job situation, and these two hovered in my mind all day long, reminding me of what a miserable situation I was in. You know what? That was not even the worst part, because the worst came when John and Beth decided to move to our town, just a few minutes' drive from our house, and from there, things just went ugly. I mean, the insults and the rebukes I was getting on calls and texts, the one I could not ignore, were now given to me in real time as my in-laws would just turn up at our house all of a sudden. And you can guess why talking about my job situation was their favorite. They would say that they were here to meet and spend time with their daughter, but all they did was insult me. They even talked about how they allowed Lydia to marry me just because I was earning well. And if I had been in such a bad state as I was now, they would never have let their wedding happen. This ought to hurt, right? You know what hurt me even worse? The way my wife never took a stand for me. I mean, she just allowed her parents to trample all over me like they were actually right about whatever they had been saying to me. You can guess how horrible this must be for me. Did these people not see how hard I've been trying to get everything back to how it was? And yet, they were just rebuking me constantly, so all of this was my own personal hell. But things just got a little too out of control a few days back. So it was Lydia's birthday and her parents were hosting a party. And yes, they did not fail to rub this one in my face, talking about how they were throwing the party only because I couldn't afford it. Well, that wasn't even the craziest bit of that night. The craziest part was when they invited Lydia's ex, her first love George, to the party. Can you even believe this? I mean, what parents in their right mind would invite their ex to her birthday party when she was happily married? I mean, I didn't even know about the happily married part anymore because Lydia has been acting pretty weird since her parents moved here. I mean, it can possibly be how they're getting to her head or something, but her weird and distant behavior has started to get me worried. Anyways, let me tell you about what happened at the party, because that's one of the major reasons why I'm even here telling you guys about this whole thing. So you can imagine my shock when I saw George in front of me, dashing as ever. I mean, Lydia has told me over and over about him. He was her childhood sweetheart, and they had to break up when George went out of the country for his education. From the way Lydia talked about him, it was crystal clear that she was too in love with George. She even showed me a picture of him initially in our dating phase, talking about how good he was. I mean, I don't blame her. It was her first love, and it was all in the past because the time Lydia met me, she had moved on completely. But what was George doing here all of the sudden? I mean, you guys can't blame me for being a little insecure by his presence. He was a more good-looking version than me, and by the looks of it, he was even richer than me. So as soon as I saw George there, I felt very uneasy. Even then, I was not ready for what happened next. So, throughout the party, John and Beth were all about praising George. I mean, if there was something they liked more than insulting me, it must have been praising George. And then they must have had the crazy idea of combining the two things that they liked, because soon I found them comparing me to George. They started talking about how George was flourishing as a very successful businessman while I was just there, not even able to get a proper job. I was so stunned by their behavior. They've been insulting me all the time, and I was taking it for Lydia's sake. But now they were humiliating me in front of so many people, and I was shocked at how cruel that they could be. They kept on, quote, simply joking about how Lydia would have had a better life with a rich businessman like George, instead of a struggling man like me. Can you believe it? They literally just said that, and Lydia didn't even utter a word to defend her own husband? I was shocked. I mean, my wife should have definitely said something about it, right? Well, she should not have let her parents insult me in the first place, but that ship has sailed a long time ago, I guess. Moreover, when I talked to Lydia about it, she just simply told me not to take any of that to heart since her parents were just, quote, joking. Yeah, right. Comparing me to her ex-boyfriend must sound like a hilarious joke. I can't believe Lydia is not saying anything to her parents about this whole thing. Like, inviting George to the party was already crossing a line, but then praising him just so that he could insult me? That's crazy, right? My wife just thinks I'm overreacting, but I guess my reaction is totally justified. I mean, her parents called her ex-boyfriend better than me in so many languages, for goodness sake. I'm supposed to act like I'm unbothered by that? And then there's also this whole thing about Lydia acting completely weird around me. I mean, she wasn't like this before, so this whole thing is just bothering me so much that I can't even stop thinking about it. I don't know what I should do about this whole thing. But one thing I do know for certain is I can't take this anymore. This is why I'm here, asking you guys for maybe some advice. So please tell me, you guys, what I should do about this. Do you also think I'm overreacting, as my wife claims, or is my reasons justified? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So I have 2 comments we're going to check out before we hop into the first update. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Here's the first comment, and it says, OP, I'm really sorry you're dealing with this. Your in-laws are being completely inappropriate, and it's understandable why you would be feeling hurt and frustrated. You're doing your best to support your family in a difficult situation, and it sounds like your efforts are being overshadowed by their negativity. It might help to have a direct conversation with Lydia about setting boundaries with her parents and possibly seeking couples counseling to work through these issues together. Just hang in there and remember that your worth is not defined by their opinions or your current job situation. Comment number 2. I understand that your in-laws are being tough on you, buddy. But if I'm being honest, it sounds like you might be falling short in some areas. Losing a job, yeah, that's tough. But it seems like you're not doing everything you can to improve your situation. You're in a low-paying job and still struggling, which might be why your in-laws are stepping in. And if they see you not making enough effort to get back on your little feet, it might be why they're being so critical. Sometimes facing harsh feedback can be a wake-up call to push harder. So instead of over-analyzing it, take this as a chance to prove yourself and do it. Update number 1. Hey guys, I'm back. And honestly, I don't even know where to start. Things have gotten way worse since my initial post, and to say that I'm in a shock would be an absolute understatement of the year. I thought I could handle my in-laws and their constant digs, but nothing could have prepared me for what was happening over the past few weeks. Let me just pick it up from where I left it off, shall I? So, as you guys remember, I was basically fuming over that ridiculous birthday party, and even more than that, over how Lydia stood by and said nothing, while her parents insulted me and compared me to George. But as much as that hurt, what's been bothering me even more is how Lydia has been acting since then. She's been so distant. Like she's physically here, but emotionally it's like I'm living with a stranger. Another weird thing is that she's been going out all dressed up. And when I asked where she was going, she would just say that she's going out with her parents. At first, I didn't think much of it. What was the harm in Lydia hanging out with her parents, other than the fact that her parents were some other-level jerks? But they were her parents nonetheless. So I let it be. But when it started to happen even more often, something just didn't feel right. I don't know, call it a gut feeling, but I couldn't shake the thought that she wasn't telling me the whole truth, and there was definitely something more to this whole situation. So I ended up doing something I'm not really proud of. I know some of you may judge me for this, but it had to be done for the sanity of my own mind. Basically, I downloaded a tracking app. I put it on her phone without her knowledge, and I know, it sounds terrible, but I just could not ignore the nagging feeling that something was not right, and boy was I right. So, a few days back, I checked the app and saw that Lydia was not at her parents' house even when she told me that she would be there. Instead, she was at some fancy restaurant on the other side of the town, and I told myself it was probably nothing, maybe she was just eating out with her parents or something, but deep down, I knew I had to see for myself. So I drove over there. Once I reached there, I tried to peek inside through the window, and there she was, my Lydia, with none other than the infamous George. And the way they were just a bit too close just made me lose my marbles. It was obviously that this was a date, and any doubt still remaining in my mind. It was confirmed when Lydia leaned in to kiss George. Yes, she literally kissed him. You can imagine how heartbreaking that sight must have been for me. After everything I've been going through, after how hard I've been trying to make things work, my wife was here kissing with her ex-boyfriend? I didn't confront her right then. I couldn't. I was too stunned, so I just sat in my car for some time trying to process what I had just seen, and after what felt like hours, I finally gathered myself. I knew I had to do something, but instead of going home, I went to my in-laws' house. I figured I would talk to them and maybe get some answers. Maybe there was some kind of explanation, though at this point I was getting desperate. Not willing to accept this. I mean, how could she even cheat on me like this? So, I reached my in-laws' place and let myself in. I got a spare key, buddy, that Lydia had given to me in case of emergencies. And that's when things took an even darker turn. As I stepped inside, I heard voices from the living room. I was about to call out when I heard them talking about Lydia and George. You know what they say, my curiosity got the better of me. So I stayed hidden out of the living room trying to overhear what they were even going on about. And the things I heard just made my head spin. So these guys were saying how they needed to hurry things along so that Lydia would leave me soon and marry George. And then they started to talk about how rich they would be once Lydia gets married to old George. Beth even laughed, telling John how it was the best thing when he ran into George after all these years, or else they never could have came up with this plan and they would never have gotten such a rich man stuck in their trap. I was shocked. It was clear that Lydia's parents had orchestrated this whole thing, and now they were trying to get Lydia and George together just so they could have George's money. It was crazy. Can parents actually stoop so low just for the sake of some money? It was a good thing that I had taken out my phone and recorded the whole conversation as soon as I heard them talking about Lydia and George. I had recorded it just in case, and, to be on the safe side, but now I could not believe that I had recorded such an evil plan. Now, I'm basically back to square one, sitting in my vehicle still in shock, and I don't know what to do. Do I confront Lydia? Do I show her the recording? Or do I just walk away from all of this? I love her, but after everything that's happened, I don't even know if I can look at her the same way. I'm too confused, guys. So I'm turning to you people, again, for any suggestions. Please help me. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's me. I'm back with an update, and well, it's Sam. It's been 3 weeks since my last one, and honestly, things have been horrible. A complete nightmare, if I may say so. I thought catching Lydia in the act and confronting her would at least give me some closure, some type of peace, or maybe even force her to apologize for everything. But I could not have been more wrong, because the confrontation with Lydia went exactly the opposite of what I had expected it to go. And now I'm honestly losing my mind. Yes, a lot of you guys suggested, and I did confront Lydia. I had to. All those thoughts were eating me alive, and I just had to know why she did it. So, after a lot of back and forth, I ended up confronting her. I told her how I knew what she was up to when she was, quote, going out with her parents. At this, Lydia just acted unbothered, asking me what I was going on about. And then I told her that I knew that she's been cheating on me with George, and I told her how I had seen her at the restaurant kissing him. I intentionally left out the tracker part, or the parts where I saw her parents plotting this whole thing out. You would expect that after such a confrontation, the other person would feel some sort of regret or guilt. Or maybe, I don't know, apologize? But no. Oh no, that was not the case with Lydia. That's not the case at all. Instead, she just laughed and acted all relieved that everything was now out in the open. But what she said next was what hit me the worst. So basically, Lydia just tells me how she was herself planning on leaving me very long ago. Yeah, but she didn't actually know how to do it. And I just made things so much easier. Now that this was all out in the open, she could just leave easily, since she can't be living with a peasant like me and wants a rich husband for herself. I just stood there speechless. Who says that? After everything we've been through, after all the sacrifices I've made for this woman, this is what she has to say. She just called me a peasant. Out of all things she could have possibly said? Did she not see how I've been working my butt off just so I could provide for her a good life? And this is what I get and try to make sure that she's well taken care of? All of this struck me like a lightning bolt. How are you supposed to feel when your wife tells you that she's been planning to leave you for some rich dude all along? Right at the moment, I knew I had to end things. No matter how hard it was for me, I told her I was going to file for divorce, and she did not even flinch. She just told me that she was thinking of the same, and you know the crazy part. Before I could even file the papers, she beat me to it. Yeah, Lydia filed for divorce first, and it was like the final blow. One last move to show me she didn't give a darn about our marriage anymore. So now I'm stuck in the middle of this ugly divorce as the proceedings have started, and I'm still feeling all kinds of anger and betrayal. I thought that maybe once the divorce started, I'd feel some kind of relief, like I could finally move on, but honestly, I feel nothing but frustrated. Every time I think back about what she did, about her parents, about her evil plot, I just want to scream. There's no sense of satisfaction, no closure. It's like she won, and I'm left here picking up the pieces, trying to make sense of how my life can go on. Well, I can't let it end like this. I need some sort of revenge or justice for what they've put me through. This isn't just about a broken marriage anymore. It's about how they've tried to humiliate me, take advantage of me, and throw me away like I'm nothing. I'm still figuring out my next move, guys, but I won't let them get away with this without paying the price. If you guys have any ideas at all, on how I could teach them a lesson, please do let me know. Final updates. Update number 3. Hey guys, it's Sam again, and well, I know it's been a few months, and a lot of you have been curious about what I did to get back at my wife. Well, firstly, I just want to apologize for taking so long to write this. It's just a lot that's been going on these past few months, but let me just assure you that it's a happy update. Yes, I'm officially divorced and finally living a peaceful life after all the chaos. And for those of you wondering whether I got my revenge or not, well, I got better revenge than I could have ever expected. Let me just bring you guys up to pace. So after my last update, I spent a lot of time thinking about how to get back at my ex-wife and her evil parents. I mean, both Lydia and her parents had humiliated me in the worst way possible, and I knew I had to do something to give them a taste of their own medicine. That's when it hit me. I had the video. The one that clearly shows John and Beth orchestrating this whole plan to get Lydia closer to George so they could use his money. Well, that video clearly showed how this was a trap for George, and how Lydia's parents did not have any particular liking for him, but instead, they were just after his money. It was the perfect weapon. I mean, what guy in his right mind would want to be with a nasty gold-digging family like this? So I planned that I would show George this video and let him decide for himself if he really wanted to be with Lydia. But there was a catch. I had no clue where George was. I hadn't heard anything about him since the birthday fiasco, and he wasn't exactly close with me, so I didn't even have his contact detail. But that's when I remembered. That tracking device I installed on Lydia's phone. I mean, she still has no idea about it, did she? Also, if she was still with George, maybe I could finally find her, and then find him. It was a bit of a long shot, but I decided, heck it, let's go for it. So, when one day I noticed Lydia back again in some fancy restaurant, I assumed that there was a good chance that George was there paying for it. So I took my shot and went there, ready to confront him and show him what he was getting himself into. Except when I got there, George wasn't there. Instead, I found Lydia kissing another man, some random guy I never even seen before. Yeah, it's crazy, but I decided, you know what? I'll stay here and record this too, just in case. And that's when I overheard her telling the guy that George was out of town for a business trip and would not be back for a month, meaning they could, quote, have all the fun they wanted. So, there you are. This woman was so messed up that she was even cheating on the guy she left me for. As much as this made me sick to my stomach, I was also sort of happy about getting more evidence of why George should stay away from this toxic family. Meanwhile, all of this mess was going on, and my divorce with Lydia was going to be finalized. It did not take much time since both of us wanted to do it, and with me barely having anything at that point, there was not much fuss about the alimony. I was still trying to get George, as my initial plan had failed, but was having a rough time trying to reach him. To my surprise, a few weeks later, I got to know that George and Lydia were getting married, and it was all over social media, and I knew this was my chance to finally get my revenge. So, on their wedding day, I showed up, uninvited, and found George. Just as the ceremony was getting underway, I approached him, showed him all the evidence I had, the video of Lydia's parents, her evil scheme, and the proof of how Lydia was cheating on him this whole time. All of this was enough to get his blood boiling. For a second, I even felt bad for the guy, since this man also loved Lydia like I did, and she just played us both like a fiddle. I thought about it after I exposed Lydia. George would maybe confront her or something, but no, he decides to go out with a bang. I was honestly shocked to see him putting on the best show ever. So here's what happened. As Lydia was walking down the aisles in front of all her friends and family, George interrupted the ceremony, and then he played all the twisted videos for everyone to see. Instantly, people started whispering and gossiping about Lydia and her messed up family, while Lydia and her parents' faces just lost color. Right at that moment, George, he called off the wedding, since he could not marry into a family full of manipulative jerks, in his words. The scene was pure chaos. People started leaving, Lydia sobbing, begging George to let her explain, but it's too late. He walked out, and John and Beth's entire dream of having a rich son-in-law crumbled right in front of their eyes. Not gonna lie, it was a little satisfying to watch. This was not even the worst of it all, as Lydia and her parents' lives just got worse from there as they were shunned by everyone. Their reputation was ruined, really, and they became the laughingstock of the town. Nobody wanted anything to do with them, especially after it's revealed that they were such greedy jerks, that they wanted to use their own daughter for such money. Now here's the cherry on top. Just a few weeks ago, I had a fantastic new job. After struggling financially and emotionally for a while after my divorce, things finally started looking up. And well, that's not even the crazy part. Guess who came a-knocking at my door, begging me, groveling for help 2 days ago? You guessed it. Yep, Lydia and her parents. It was actually crazy because even after all this, they had the nerve to ask me to take Lydia back. Apparently, without George's money and after all the wedding drama, they're broke. They didn't have enough money to support themselves, let alone watch Lydia. I didn't have much to say. I didn't need to do much. I just looked at them and laughed before I slammed the door shut in their faces. You know, the satisfaction after that was worth it. They were themselves responsible for this mess that they found themselves in. So why the hell would I help them? Now I'm living a pretty solid life with my new job, while Lydia and her parents are literally broke, trying to grasp at anything to make ends meet, and I'd say they deserved every bit of it. Anyways, thank you to everybody who supported me throughout every update. I'm finally at peace now, and your support has helped me a lot. So long.